a game that last season or last stage was hotly contested. I think that this is going to be very similar, especially with the leaps and bounds that Team One have been able to make. Going Six Invitational was such a big thing for them as a roster. It's something we've spoken to them about in interviews and stuff previously, that it was such an opportunity for them to play different levels of competition internationally, and it seems to be something they've brought back home into Stage 2, because these guys have been nuts here inside of Stage 2. Liquid, on the other hand, a team that are somewhat iffy at the minute. And I think that's maybe the best way to put it. They're not hot, they're not cold, they're a little bit in between. Nomad, Thatcher, Echo, and Mute are going to be the bans. Nice little selection there, GL.
Yeah, I'm not mad about that one. Thatcher's the only boring one. I mean, it's interesting because the Echo has been banned by Team Liquid, but it's Team Liquid who've actually been using a decent amount of Echo this stage. They put Sexy Cake on Echo a decent amount. Nomad, I suppose you could argue, is a little bit boring for Consulate. And actually, this is kind of cool because PSK has decided that well, I'm sure he didn't decide on his own. It was a group decision. Team game, everybody. PSK is going to be playing Zero instead as their flank watch. So with Nomad taken out, you could, in theory, play something like a Gridlock, I guess. Although, when was the last time you saw Gridlock played on this map? Probably hasn't been recently, unless you are in Silver. But, especially when coming onto the split site, which is Archive's Tellers, the Argus cameras of the Zero could actually be incredibly useful, providing a ton of flank information, or even just static information about what's going on downstairs to Team Liquid, who typically like to make quite fast attacks onto this site.
Yeah, planting is usually the order of the day for Liquid on this map. It's something they regularly like to try and do. You'll see Sexy Cake try and get a plant off inside of Tellers quite often up on one of the tables. Requires a lot of setup, and that's stuff that Team 1 have at their disposal. With the Echo being banned and the Mute, it does free up the table for Valkyrie. A crowd favourite here on Consulate, coupled with the Pulse, there's really no excuse for not having enough information here on the defense.
No, and that's of course why Palu has chosen to come on IQ as well, because if Valkyrie's been left in, you really need the IQ to hunt out the black eye cameras, because they can be the vector for such devastation onto your team. You have to be able to remove them nice and early. Team 1, of course, is still going to be playing quite a roam as well. I mean, this is a site where you have to be quite flexible to move between the upstairs and the downstairs anyway, as it is. But when you've got something like a Vigil on site, then you know that, of course, that is the general strategy. We did see that KDS was present upstairs. I believe it was in meeting room, although I have no doubts he's moved by this point, which he has, and is down in the public bathroom.
KDS is certainly a player to keep an eye on and watch. He's someone that's really popped off in the past couple of weeks. And, well, this time opening kill going to go in Alamau's favor. There goes that information game that we were talking about. You've got to make those C4s land. Alamau's going to get chunked down in the process, but he will be able to get himself safe for the time being. Still quite a couple of defaults left as well that can be thrown into that rotation of static cams remaining. A lot of the Valkyrie ones lasting as well, as they haven't been used outside. They've been used on the inside, and that then puts a bit more pressure onto Palu. No longer is he able to just sit out and try and search out this utility. He's got to be actively being covered whilst in IQ scanner to really get anything done. We see drones now being set. Maybe Liquid are going to start thinking about a bit of a plant here.
They're going to have to. They're in the final minute of this round, of course. Alamau still hasn't been moved out of his position, so he can hold on to Visa pretty safely for now. He'll have to be cleared before Liquid can do much about him. And sure, he's low on health, but there is still the risk that he could catch out PSK, for example, as he looks to push in. Into the final 30 seconds now. There he goes. Straight as he vaults over. He can't quite get the second one. Sexy Cake lands that kill. But he still has to be very vigilant before he goes in for the plant. Palu catches one out on the flank. There's one in spiral stairs as well. He'll also be killed. And that means Sexy K can go for the plant, but not if Lagonis has anything to say about it.
Well, Palu might find himself a triple here, but it's likely going to be impactless as that plant can be denied all day by Lagonis. The C4 was first, and then the UMP came second. He managed to take down both the players of Liquid. It was going to be Sexy Cake and I believe Moringa that were trying to get themselves in there to finish off that job, but ultimately a little bit too late and maybe a little bit too predictable from the side of Liquid, as that is an attempt and a push that we see them do many, many times in various different forms. But Team One were very, very aware and ready to deal with that today.
I think the way that Team One positioned themselves, you know, they had the roam as well as having quite an aggressive presence from Alamau over on the east side of the map, and the presence downstairs on the site. Team Liquid just simply found not enough time to be able to deal with all of those potential pressures. They went for the roam clear. They wanted to clear out Alamau, I guess, but I don't think they knew where he was by the end. Otherwise, PSK just wouldn't have vaulted over the little half wall. And they hadn't done anything to prevent any kind of C4 denial from below, which, to be perfectly honest with you, is kind of just the first checkpoint for that site. Not that it's the first thing that you do, but it's the first thing that you consider as a prominent threat. Team Liquid, Sexy Cake himself didn't have really much time to do anything about it when he went into plant, because we were in the final 10 seconds by that point. He simply had to make sure that the service stairs were clear, go into the site, and go for a plant. Team Liquid had not done anything about Lagonis down below. It was, I mean, the time was just so pushed.
It was really pushed, and it was sort of not difficult to see what Liquid had achieved up until that point, but they didn't have every box ticked. There wasn't, you know, sufficient pressure coming in from every angle. It really was just in an attempt to try and extend that time and extend that clock. So it's early days. We'll have to see how Liquid choose to respond and how they want to approach this next round. Still a ton of information being brought here by Team One, and this time they've really doubled down on those C4s. There's going to be 4 of them available. No pulse though, so going to instead be reliant on Banshees and Mozzie Pests, and of course the mirrors, Maestro's cameras. So everything really leading into that information game. Everything that Team One are bringing here is really based off trying to have as much intel as they possibly could.
Lot of information available to Team One. We're gonna know the whereabouts of Liquid for quite some time. It could force them to, or allow them rather, to grind down the attacking team as they head in, very similarly to last time. I mean, Palu's just trying to provide some information as to the whereabouts of these electronic gadgets from above as his team look to push in. But when you've got someone like KDS standing at the other end of long desk, it makes it so much harder. Team Liquid have to utilize one of their smokes to block his vision. Look at this really narrow gap that he's trying to hold.
Some sort of execute is going to have to start to take shape here again, as Liquid have got themselves into position but aren't sitting on the most amount of time. Palu going to be on the balcony. Alamau still all the way inside a garage, so those C4s are going to become quite a big factor here. PSK on the flank watch, so as this plant does start to go down, there is a chance that it could stick. Kills are going to start to fly as well. Alamau will be successful in taking down PSK, but the plant will be successful. The C4 does come in a little bit too late, and this can be one of the more difficult sites to retake onto. Alamau's doing his best. He's found Moringa as well. Still Nesk and Palu up and alive. Palu going to be providing overwatch from the balcony. He's able to shut down Alamau. Can he find that final frag? No, it's going to be Lagonis instead. What a push. How does Lagonis get away with that? Nesk is literally holding the angle onto the diffuser. Lagonis comes through with the quick 1-2. Alamau as well, all the way from the basement, just Terminator all the way through.
Well, it was a bit frantic for Team 1 at the end, and I actually thought that maybe once the plant went down that it was going to go Liquid's favor. And the reason that the C4 was late from Alamau was because of the trade onto PSK. Even though PSK got a kill for himself, the fact that Alamau had to take just those couple of seconds of time to get the kill back onto PSK, it meant that he couldn't reach the hatch in time. And that just was a very small thing that made a big difference because it allowed the plant to go down. However, the thing is Team Liquid weren't really set up in ideal post-plant positions, and that is kind of uncharacteristic for Team Liquid. Usually they are a very good, diligent post-plant team. But in this instance, as Alamau particularly was moving back up through the map, he wanted to get onto the first floor, he found a couple of picks on his way as well. Even though it was Lagonis to get the final one, Alamau did a substantial amount of the work in the post-plant scenario, in a way that just kind of made Team Liquid not really look like Team Liquid. They're usually very good at coordinating a post plant, and it's kind of odd to see them in an outcome like that.
There really wasn't a great deal of coordination there. I think that's the really sort of strange and maybe somewhat troubling thing from Liquid. They've just been caught out and caught very short. Again, a plant going down at an inopportune moment, and it seems to be more on the timing. I think that's the thing that's hurting Liquid the most at the minute, is that sort of timing of the round where you get the feeling when the plant's going down, it's in an attempt to extend that clock because they know they can't get the kills that are required to finish it. They're now trying to, you know, sort of jank together a bit of a post plant, and that isn't something that you can just sort of throw. Now, they've got another opportunity here. They're going to be attacking down into the garage. There's a mirror window being played inside of the bathroom from Team 1, and an extended roam game as well. So a full map clear is going to be required here. Nesk going to start that, making his way in toward admin.
Well, the big problem that Team Liquid have faced these last couple of rounds has just been how slow they have been. And as you mentioned, they need to go for a full map clear, but they're going to have to be a bit snappier about it, I think, is fair to say, because it's let them down a couple of times. Especially knowing that they have to attack straight down onto the basement. Looking at what they have, you know, if they lose Moringa, for example... Alright, they're going to lose Nesk first. I was going to say if they lose Moringa early, then getting something like the piano floor open is going to be a challenge. You'd really have to rely on someone like Palu to use his soft breach secondary gadgets, and that means that he wouldn't really have the opportunity to actually use his primary gadget. He's going to be applying pressure onto the yellow stairs and sends Levy scattering. And Moringa can finally actually work on opening up these floors.
Liquid can start to try and make something happen here, but they're still being challenged somewhat. Levy was just threatening there. He's going to dip himself back into archives. Neskin as well going to be blocking off from the hatch drop just to ensure that there's going to be minimal backside pressure. The breach still needing to be opened. It's not going to be the end of the world. Replay C4 there from Levy as well, so there's maybe a bit of information knocking around as to PSK's location or potential location. Levy just going to try and bait him in a little bit there as well, seeing if he can make anything happen. The breach will now be opened. 20 seconds left. Paolo and PSK are going to be trying to deal with the players in this backside. It's going to be PSK to probably find Levy here, as Levy does just get a little bit too over-aggressive onto that one. Paolo switched up and instead has gone down those yellow stairs. Sexy Kate will be taken down as the plant was being attempted yet again. Neskin, he's now making a rotation in through as well. The diffuser hasn't been recovered. Team 1, they're going to win that one out on time. The kills were there for Liquid, but they just ran out of time again and didn't have possession of the kit.
It's kind of crazy as well, because I think, from what I can tell, PSK's flank watch actually hasn't been too bad. It's just been about what's been acted on off the back of that. I do also want to see, and obviously we're not going to get to see it right now. We'll have to wait until we're actually into the round. I want to see what Nesk's stats are, because one of the problems Team Liquid had yesterday when they were playing on Villa was the fact that Nesk just didn't get a lot of opportunity to shine. He was being shut down early a number of times, and he hasn't really had a chance to pop off in this game so far either. And yeah, you know, we're still early on in the game, and that could certainly change. But part of the reason why things might be going slowly for them, or why they're not acting as aggressively on that information they're receiving, could possibly just be because the fragging power isn't there. Because when you look at somebody like Sexy Cake or Palu, who are doing these more supportive roles at this time, I mean, Sexy Cake obviously always takes the hard support pretty much, and Palu, while sometimes will play the second entry, he's doing a lot more of a supportive role right now. They seem to actually be sticking to their jobs pretty well. You can tell that they're staying on their role. They know what they're meant to be doing. It's just that middle part that actually requires the clearing isn't happening so much for them.
It's a real strange one when you're sort of looking at Liquid and you're thinking these guys are moving slowly, because it's very unusual to sort of say, and it's not a feeling that we're used to. Seemingly nothing has changed in terms of the roster and the way that these guys are playing. Like, obviously there's a bit of operator switch up, but there's something that's significantly hampering them and slowing them down at the moment. Team One are taking good advantage of that, and I think Team One are, to some degree, setting up very nice traps and time sinks that Team Liquid are falling on into. And you look at this round and you think the clash is almost the epitome of that. Nade's going to be tossed on in there to CEO in an attempt to remove a little bit of utility. So far, a relatively undecided approach here from Liquid. It's unclear for the meantime whether they're going to try and get themselves in through those yellow stairs, or if the push is instead going to come through admin. There's a bit of pressure on both areas at the moment, as we see players now rotating from that west side, from the CEO side, onto these admin windows.
It looks like they're mostly bunched up towards admin, which in my opinion makes a lot of sense, especially when you know that the clash is mostly positioned over in CEO. This is the best way to kind of avoid that, and you can actually see she's being rotated entirely over towards meeting. Now that Selma has been placed just above the stairs, which should give Team Liquid a nice line of sight and a way to apply pressure in there, but it's not as valuable with, you know, gunfire if it's just a clash who's going to stand in the way of it. Now, I suspect that someone here is going to try and get on the meeting window. Well, this is actually an entire rotate round to the other side of the map.
I mean, they started at yellow, then they move over to admin, then they move back over to yellow. And they've got 50 seconds left. It's like, guys, really, what are you doing here? You need to try and commit to something. Well, finally, we're going to see a hop-in and a bit of control of yellow stairs gained. What can Liquid start to try and do with this? PSK able to get some Argus cams in. It's going to burn any ADSs, maybe provide a little bit of utility. I'd honestly be worried about vertical. There's a couple of C4s landing below, or at least one in the hands of Neskin. And he's going to look to try and make that stick. Team One know how focused Liquid are at a plant, and with 20 seconds left, there's really only one thing for it. Moringa, he's going to kick things off with a nade kill, but Alamau trades back instantly. Sexy Cake does still hold the diffuser. Is the plant going to start coming down? It actually goes all the way through Lagonis there. The shield not coming into matter one little bit. Sexy Cake, are you going to start getting this plant down, or is the round going to be won on time? This is last second stuff. Is the information there for Neskin? He does still have the C4. It's going to ride on through, but it isn't in time. It chunks Sexy Cake down, but the plant is successful. KDS, he's going to get himself taken out there from the bathroom. PSK in position. Liquid, it was by the skin of their teeth, but they've been able to get the plant down. They've now got themselves into the post plant. Neskin, he's got a lot of work to do here. 1 versus 3 to try and make this happen. There are some low players on Liquid. Nobody's sitting at full health, but triple crossfire being held. Always going to be an awkward one there. PSK, the player to find that final kill. Liquid, they finally break the seal. They get a round on the board.
It's great to see Liquid actually finally do that, especially under such precarious circumstances, because my fears really reflected yours, Ollie. You know, they were trying to avoid this clash and essentially send Team One on this wild goose chase. But there were other really key areas of the map that Team Liquid had not cleared out. You know, notably Alamau, who was still present in the bathroom upstairs. When you want to be coming in for a yellow side push, oh my god, you want that bathroom to be clear. And Alamau got a kill from there. You had the players who were downstairs as well, and as soon as you're spotted, those players who have rotated to meeting can just change their attentions over towards CEO. So I did think it was monumentally risky for Team Liquid, and as you said, Sexy Cake got the plant down by the skin of his teeth. It was not a comfortable position for him to be in, but Team Liquid were much better in holding a post plant on that round than what we saw in, for example, round 2 on Lobby, which is the only other round that they got a plant successfully down.
That last round was a round that Liquid didn't win because they were the better team. It was just a round that they won because they won the gunfights. And that, it's, again, it comes into this weird feeling where typically if Liquid are getting the plant down and winning the round, it's because they've gone through and you're like, God, they're the better team there in that one. There were chances there for Team 1, especially with how fine the margins were. It's certainly not a repeatable timeline that you want to see Liquid try and get away with a couple of times in a row. Still, Team 1 in the advantage here. They have a couple of round lead to try and maintain. And Liquid have got a lot of catching up and a lot of work really now to do. Now, when we saw this site, we saw the plant go down in that main double door. However, it was actually retaken. We saw Lagonis and Alamau go pretty massive to get the job done there. Again, a round that came down to a plant being scrubbed down in the final few seconds. Wonder if we see a different approach here from Liquid. Already, Levy has got himself chunked down a little bit and wants to just take a bit of care, keep himself going.
Levy got taken down by a nade in the last round. Alright. So Team Liquid, again, they successfully planted on this site on the first rotation of sites. Didn't successfully hold a post plant. Now, there are a lot of players down in the basement. Or I suppose there was one. I thought there were two. My bad. Moringa brings him down regardless, so goodbye to Neskin. As one of the roamers dealt with. Nice, okay, we've just got to the halfway point in the round 2. Now it's the upstairs they're going to have to worry about.
Still slow progress from Liquid as they try and catch these players out on rotation. Palu's got a bit of intel here. He's got a Z-ping to work with, but he'll hold the angle. Unlikely at this point that anybody is going to give themselves away to it. Nesk, however, will find some success. He's able to take down Levy. He's holding down at the bottom of Z corridor. Lagonis going to be feeling the pinch as the Selmas are going to open up his mirror window and really expose his position in attic. He's now been opened on both sides. He has the hatch that he can look to try and drop down. But it's that position inside of the bathroom that you really want to try and hold on to. Especially with the C4 in hand. It's going to be valuable to keep yourself alive in there. But Lagonis thinks better of it. Goes for the drop and actually initially gets pushed. Moringa, what are you on? He's just going to drop and find that kill. It's another C4 gone, and it's a risk that was worthwhile at this point, especially with Palu taking down Alamau. KDS now. Again, 12 seconds remain. A lot of information available for him here. What? How does he get that kill onto PSK? A C4 could do the business here, but Palu, one of the best in the business on the cover. He's going to be able to keep Sexy Cake safe there. Or keep Nesk safe, excuse me, as he was trying to attempt that plant. Again, not a lot of time remaining. Scrappy stuff there, but it gets the job done.
Right, if KDS had done that, I would have lost my mind. I mean, because the first kill, right, Moringa, maybe just a bit short-sighted to run into Piano like that. Just riding off of the high of the great kill that he'd taken just prior. But the second kill onto Spiral, that was a kill. That was a kill. You know, Team Liquid, they seem to be heating up a bit more now. The way that they actually are going about their clears, they're getting rid of some of the time that it was taking them in those earlier rounds. And they do have the chance to even this out. 3-3 at the half. So Cool, that could put them in a much better position, but they've got to attack back onto Tellers and Archives. And their attack back in round 1 was quite messy. They spent a ton of time trying to figure out where everybody was. There was a huge roam coming out from Team 1. Team Liquid didn't get any opportunity to pressure what was going on down below them. And Sexy Cake had no choice but to go in for a plant. He did it on the floor where he got C4'd from below, and there was nothing that Team Liquid could do about it. Not only that, but also the fact that Team 1 reclaimed control of Visa as well, which meant that as soon as PSK tried to walk in, and you want that sort of supporting angle for the guy who's going to plant, you're just killed instantly. It was messy. It wasn't great. And I hope that after these last couple of rounds, where Team Liquid have looked somewhat improved, we will see something similar going into this one.
Well, time will tell here. There's quite a nice technical approach to opening this garage wall going on right now. Removing all of the soft material off the garage wall and then just placing Xkaros pellets onto a couple of those supports. Open up the garage wall quite nicely here and just give a couple of lines of sight. It's not a very common way of doing it, but it's an alternate approach. I think it's still going to have created something to be able to vault on through.
I think they still had a bit of a line between them, though. I don't know. I guess we'll see.
I think it's 2 separate holes, but one is...
Yeah.
The bottom one looks like it could be a vault.
I have to see if they can make their way through that.
Certainly a strange way of doing it when there's no sort of electrification on there. There's nothing stopping you from just opening it in a nice normal way. It is a little bit of a strange one, but I'm sure that 6K had his reasons for doing so.
Yeah, it uses the same number of pellets as well, because they did 3 sets of 2 up either side. So that's 12 pellets. Which is how much it would be if you used 2 of the, you know, the normal size X-Kairos
Just
pellets.
the 6s, yeah.
Yeah. Maybe it does look like it made a kind of bigger hole, though. So I assume that's what the aim is that you kind of have something that more closely resembles, like a thermite. Because remember, Sexy Cake played thermite last time as well. And obviously, predominantly, that's for the smokes, I'd imagine. Because you don't typically have tons of breaching responsibility when attacking onto this side. It does look like they are going all the way through the downstairs, though. This is something that Team Liquid didn't do whatsoever. They want the information as to what's going on down below before they make any rushed decision to make a plant.
There's certainly no rushing going on, Gio. There's 30 seconds left, and there's still 10 players alive inside of this round. There's going to be a lot of action that unfolds here. It's going to start with Alamau. Sorry, start with KDS, as he's going to be able to find the kill over onto Palu. Alamau getting chalked up as well. Sexy Cake, he's already tanked a 1 C4. Nesk on the cover will be able to find 1. The plant now being attempted again. Lagonish, you've got to come out with that information. Going to go for the C4 toss. I think it's going to do the job. Yes, it is. Sexy Cake was so low, it didn't really matter. Almost a carbon copy of the previous round we have seen up here. Team 1. A pulse and a C4. It's all they need.
Oh my goodness. And I know that they tried to do it a bit differently. They tried to have more information about what was happening down below, but it actually didn't seem that they acted on it. Really, they sent the drone down to just have a look through the basement. There was no clear of sorts, so it didn't actually stop anything. That is frustrating to see, you know? It is the exact same way. The exact same person as well. Lagonis onto Sexy Cake. Well, maybe Team Liquid can redeem themselves now that they're on the defense. This actually, you know what? I kind of like this defensive lineup. I think this is pretty spicy. So for a garage take, or a garage defense, I should say, it's not super common to have something like a pulse, for example. But this is pretty cool, because especially if you're expecting a vertical take to come in from Team 1, you can kind of get your own back in that sense. They've got 5 C4s. So they are really looking to punish anything that's going to come in vertically. I'm interested to see this one because also they don't have any like direct anchors. You know, the closest you could really compare any of these players to being anchors would be Kaid. But it's not the same as having a smoke. You don't have any direct plant denial other than the C4s. So this is what their entire strategy is epicentered around.
Let's see how it works out here. There's a chance here for Liquid to redeem themselves and really start to make something happen here, because it's a game that Team One look as though they may be in a position to run away with. A 4-2 split is going to be quite favourable for them here, and if they can shape themselves up on this attacking phase, they might be able to see a bit of success here. But I don't think that Liquid are going to suffer those same problems. You know, if they start running out of time on the defense, well, that's going to be a good thing. The timing was really the biggest problem here tonight on the side of Liquid, and they can sort of forget about all that for the time being and just focus on wasting as much time as possible here. And Team One again almost sort of falling into that trap.
I feel bad for Neskin here because I think he's going to be the one in the most danger, right? He's playing on Sledge. He's got the responsibility of opening up the floor, and he's got to fear all these C4s, as well as Moringa, who is just present in the bathroom. He's behind a soft wall. So I suppose there's the risk that, I mean, he could get wallbanged. Alamoun's just holding on to that door, so there's a bit of a deadlock here.
Someone's going to have to push somebody sooner or later. Palu going to start to see a bit of pressure as well. Alamau eventually will push in and finish Moringa. Palu now hits the rotate back down to site. Gets himself ready and waiting. C4 still in hand. He still has something to say in this round. Stacey Cake on the pulse this time. Pulse being brought, well, Pulse and Valkyrie being available. It really could give the advantage to the defenders in this game as a whole. We certainly saw it make a difference for Team One. Really all depends on how well you can communicate that information. Neskin going to get away with that one. The drone there able to ping out the C4 for him. Still, 2 C4s do remain for Liquid. 25 seconds left. Nesk on a bit of a rotation. Finds himself 2! No ADS required. Nesk is going to be a beast. He actually gets Levy as well. We just switch off at the last second. The kill comes in onto the attempted plant. Neski drops the hatch and finds the 4th. What a round from Nesk.
Oh my god, so the C4s were a ruse, because let's be real, the C4s themselves actually didn't do a ton. It was all about Nesk. You make Team One fear the wrong thing so you can bring out the real weapon. That's what it was.
It's like the meme where it's like, you mean it was never about, always about Nesk? Yeah, it's always about Nesk.
Yeah.
it just is that, it is that way. And that is why he is one of the most consistent players inside of BR6, because he will have a round like that that gives his team all the momentum required. We got to see pretty much all of the kills there from him, and that's really going to hurt Team One because they were in good position. They'd made great changes and great adaptations along the way inside of that round and good decision making to get them to that point, but nobody knew about the Nesk flank.
Nobody expected it. Well, we'll see if Team Liquid can ride off the back of that momentum. Not quite going for anything as crazy defensively for this one, but that makes sense. You know, they're not playing downstairs. This is an upstairs site. So let's see, what is it they have? So they've got the double projectile denial. Surrogates, unsurprising. They're going to have the information that can come in from the Maestro too. And then shields on the side of the Goyo, as well as just one measly C4 this time. Meanwhile, you look over to Team One, and they are bringing what I assume is their kind of ace, and that is a Ying.
But Ying's not a hard breacher, Gio. How is How's a Ying similar to Ace?
What? Have you considered shutting up? Have you considered never talking again?
I have considered it.
Really? How did it go? Yeah, that's what I thought.
There we go. Ace in the hole, the Ying. It's a comment that we make quite regularly about teams, is that they could potentially do with a little bit more of that aggression and a bit more of that beachhead into the site. Maybe that's what we're going to see it used for here, but I'm still concerned about the flank, Gio. I still think that that's something that you've got to give Liquid a little bit of respect on here, because we saw just how devastating it was in the previous round, and well, that really isn't going to change round to round.
Yeah, it could be a big risk. Especially when you consider that with Nomad being banned, you don't have air jabs to prevent that from happening, but Team 1 aren't really bringing a dedicated flank watch at all like Team Liquid did. So there's no gridlock, there's no zero. Team Liquid went for the zero themselves. It was played indeed by PSK, who gets our opening kill for this round. They haven't got anything to stop a flank.
PSK are going to be getting himself into that engagement. Eventually will be taken down. He was dancing with Lagonis. Neither player really wanting to commit to the gunfight, both just tentatively peeking on through. Neskin going to be opening up a couple more angles as well, as this has been fairly typical of the attacks we've seen so far. This one too being on the slower side of things. 30 or so seconds now remain in Moringa. He's worried about multiple angles here. If the Candelas start to come on in, it could be very awkward for him to really consistently hold his position. The hard breach that's been deployed is a little bit strange as well. It's not a clean angle or a clean way in. The site has now been regained. Alamau's going to push through, find Sexy Kate before getting traded 1-for-1. Kills can now start to happen as players look to rotate and retake onto the site. Nesk has a C4 and is going to be able to do the business, but not onto the planter. The plant will go down. Nesk now in the retake. 1 versus 2. Has to try and get something happening here. Is he going to be able to push on up? Nesk, he's got some information here, but can he make good on it? The answer is no. Lagonis, what a big round from him. He's able to find that final swing. Bit of a lack of intel maybe there on the side of Liquid, and something that Team 1 have exploited.
It was nice targeting done by Team 1 in a lot of that round, the way that they used the Candelas. Also opening up part of the reinforced wall into meeting meant that they could actually use utility into those holes. So whether it was going to be Candelas, whether it was going to be nades, it didn't really matter. It could have been anything, but they could just send that in and make it very difficult for the Maestro inside to really do anything, right? Because especially if you've got somebody on the upside down rappel on the meeting window, it puts you very pressurized. It makes it very difficult for you. So, I mean, they were pretty good with the utility that they used. And of course, getting the plant down and only having Nesk to go up against, while he's probably the scariest member of Team Liquid to be in that situation with, he's still at a massive disadvantage. Team 1 are just 1 round away now from match point. They're going for that Team Liquid composition that we saw earlier on in the game. So as I mentioned, they were lacking in the flank watch over the last couple of rounds. This time they won't be. They're going to have that extra information. Meanwhile, Team Liquid, again, looking to lean more heavily into the roam. They don't have a Jaeger this time, so they'll just be relying on the Wamai discs. They do have a Valkyrie, which is something that they haven't really opted for as much. They certainly didn't in that last round. So, extra information for them. But maybe a bit more vulnerable to projectiles.
We'll see how Liquid want to try and approach this for the second time. This time they are going to be bringing the Valkyrie. Was something that they did choose to leave out of their last round. do get the impression that it did hurt them somewhat. If Valkyrie's available on Consulate, you've got to be bringing those cameras. It just provides so much information. It would be crazy not to. Downstairs in Preston lobby, even you could bring a pulse as well and really start to double down on that information game, but something we saw a little bit more from Team 1 as opposed to what we're seeing so far from Liquid. But again, slow attacking rounds are the order of the day. We're not seeing either one of these teams really rush too much in their approach. Team 1, it doesn't seem to be hurting them initially. But can they make a consistent theme of it? Still, we're seeing players outside looking to gain that little bit of intel. I mean, with Lagonis' positioning at this point, you'd expect him to be going for a plant inside a piano, but of course we're very early on to really be making those sort of calls.
Yeah, still a lot of preparation. Lagonis gets caught out by Sexy Cake, who sees the opportunity to jump out onto the balcony. He can just be picked up by his teammate as Nesk secures another one. So already, Team 1 have barely made it into the building. This is a really good black eye as well on the balcony because it means they know exactly where Alamau is right now. I wouldn't be surprised to see another sort of, maybe not quite a jump out, but he's definitely going to get punished here. And he's also the IQ as well, right? You know, he gets punished. It's your job to be finding the black eyes, and he's going to be killed as a direct result of their existence.
Just something you should never see, and it makes you really sort of upset at the fact that Valkyrie can be easily spotted there, or that the black eye cameras can at least be easily spotted there, and bit of a shame for Team 1. I think Alamar will probably be kicking himself when he sees the replay or the VOD of that and just exactly how he fell inside of that one. But Levy's going to be able to bring it back to a 2 versus 2 at least. Neskin does have the diffuser, so can look to try and make something happen. Actually survives the drop there and is allowed to rotate on through. Palu now caught between pillar and post. Doesn't really know which way to turn. Vertical angle being opened above. We do see Neskin get downed at the last second there, though. Unfortunate stuff. Couple of shots was all it took through the floor. Team Liquid, they managed to clinch around here. They don't let Team 1 get onto that match point just yet.
No, and I mean, so much of that you can just put down to the Valkyrie and that specific black eye, because as I was sort of mentioning at the time, 3 players from Team 1 got taken down before they'd even had much of an opportunity to get into the site, right? Or get into the building, rather. And it's all because of that outside play, I guess. And this is why it's always such a huge point of conversation when Valkyrie makes it past an operator veto, is on Consulate, that is because you can abuse Consulate so much with those sorts of black eye cams. It has so many windows, there's so many opportunities to jump out, and most people will use the black eye cams, 1 or 2 placed outside to specifically get information about where the players are on those various windows. So that was the perfect example of why it's so notable that Valkyrie is actually in the game right now.
And that's the strange thing about the rounds that Liquid aren't taking Valk, because we didn't see Liquid take Valk a couple of rounds ago. They lose the round. They take it last round, they win the round. They've not brought it this round. I'm not saying that they're going to lose the round, but if Valk's available, you better be bringing it, because that info is just so crucial. And it really is a big reason as to why Team 1 won so many of their rounds, was because they were fearless in bringing the Valkyrie Pulse combination. They're not afraid of that composition and really leaning quite heavily into the C4s. Now, the C4s are something that Liquid are trying to make work as well. They're bringing plenty. Have they got the intel to really deploy them effectively? Potentially, inside of this one. They do have Mozzie, they do have the Pests, they have got the Evil Eye cameras on the Maestro, so there's a chance there that there's going to be sufficient intel to be able to work with. And of course, they're going to be defending downstairs in the garage.
Remember, of course, though, that when Team Liquid first came here to defend back in round 7, they went for the the quintuple C4 strategy. So they did have Valkyrie on that round, but she basically got trapped in the bathroom on the first floor and couldn't do a ton. And yeah, sure, the cameras existed, but I think Team Liquid are really going for a kind of strategy that they're gonna get maybe more use out of a broader variety of gadgets. Now, Nesk gets the opening kill onto KDS. Nesk has really had it out for KDS. I also want to point out, he's been getting a lot of kills onto him. So this is a bit more standard rather than the kind of gimmicky strategy of having the 5 C4s. Palu really narrowly misses getting the actual kill onto Neskin, but that was a lot of damage to have taken, especially nice and early. I did also want to point out as well the fact that Team 1 are bringing 2 hard breaches. It's not super common. So we'll see how that fares. Undoubtedly, they're going to want the garage door open, but I don't think you need a commentator to tell you that.
Well, 2 quick kills coming in for Liquid is going to give them a really big swing here. Levy could find himself 1 and will, but is very quickly 1 versus 4. This advantage that Liquid are able to take through the lack of a Nomad is very stark and clear right now. They're just looking to roam and cause as much of a problem as they can. That is essentially what they have done here in this round. There's tons of time remaining for Levy. But he's in a very difficult situation. It's going to be quite tricky to win this one out for him. 1 versus 4. Everybody knows where he is going to be, although he is doing a good job of breaking these down. Picks off Palu there. The glimpse of PSK, but it was only ever going to be just that. PSK there. Nice little angle being held just off the side of the bomb chassis through cafeteria. Liquid chuck another round up on that board, leveling it up at 5 rounds apiece.
So Team Liquid, who seem to be having some problems on their attack, have kind of redeemed themselves here on the defense. They themselves are going to be going for Archives Tellers this time. This was the site that they had exceptional trouble with attacking onto, which is funny because historically throughout the BR6 in 2021, Team Liquid have looked pretty adept at being able to attack onto Teller's Archives, but just this game, no, it hasn't been working out for them all too well whatsoever. They're not going for the same kind of look that Team 1 did, however. Palu's decided to employ the mirror. I'm going to be bringing some mirror windows along. It's a bit more old school, I suppose, of an approach. Won't be using a pulse either, which is famously very popular for this site, and that was really the way that Team 1 won both of their defenses themselves, getting that same C4 kill via the use of the cardiac sensor of the pulse and denying the plant that was taken in, the final 5 seconds both times Liquid tried to attack. So it's going to be different. There's going to be a roam from Moringa and Nesk, undoubtedly, and they still have a ton of information that will come from Sexy Cake and PSK.
A little bit of everything here for Liquid in the composition that they're going to bring. Team 1 by no means struggling just yet to get this one over the line, but an opportunity at a full 3 points would be very nice, and that's what the team that wins this round is going to get. Obviously, the points starting to really get put under that microscope, especially with these 2 teams who are cemented inside of that top 4. They're going to want to ensure good seeding. And there's certainly a competition on our hands here between them both. And neither one is sort of lying down and just taking the easy ride out, knowing that they have already qualified. Both teams here really want the win, and the team that wins this round is going to have the best chance of that. And of course, the majority of the points. Now, info being gathered. Alamau quietened off since getting on the attack, but still running double positive. 14-7 here. He's going to find his first onto Moringa. Pressure being applied inside of Tellers. And in the bottom of Visa, as that's where Team 1 are going to be applying a lot of this attention. Sexcate going to be upstairs in admin. Could have a chance at a bit of a rotation through. Nesk on the spiral as well, so Liquid in a good position to start retaking very quickly here, dependent on the pressure that starts to be applied.
That, oh, okay, Alamau straight in onto the site. I was going to ask if that black guy actually lived very long. PSK ready to punish because of the vertical holes down below. Just hold on to the Alder and go brrr, and yeah, you're gonna die. Nesk can't quite get KDS though. Suddenly the tables are turned there and it's all on to Palu. Has his mirror window still available to him downstairs, and he can hold these narrow angles, but it doesn't really stop anyone from getting on with the plant upstairs. That's going to be the job of KDS, and Palu is still playing this very carefully just in case any of the attackers are down with him. But bear in mind, he doesn't have a C4 on him, so he doesn't have very many options. I'm pretty sure there was a drone that was flown by him, and he's being incredibly tentative here, knowing full well that all those angles are being held. And of course, it was only a matter of time before one of them was taken. I believe that's KDS at the end, who finally finished him off.
Match point there for Team 1. They have the first opportunity at a full 3 points here. Liquid's iffy form continues. Let's see how this one ends. An opportunity here for Liquid to keep themselves in this and take it to an overtime. I think we were expecting a close game here, Gio, given the performance from Liquid of late and the way that Team 1 have been rising through the ranks. It was kind of on the cards that we were going to see a fairly closely contested game today. It's certainly been a good one to watch. And on Consulate as well, with a Valkyrie available. I think that's what's made it more exciting, honestly.
No, I mean, it has been pretty good too. And you can just see straight up, like, the differences in playstyles. I think the fact that IQ has been such a prominent part of the attacking lineups on both sides, but even straight up, you can see how differently she's been used. And I know it's a little bit irrelevant now because she's not being brought along for this this round, but regardless, you know, Alamau playing IQ kind of aggressively, knows he's carrying a great gun, isn't really hanging around to do tons of looking through the wrist scanner. I don't remember what it's called. What do you call it? The little gadget she has.
IQ scanner.
Yeah. IQ scanner. He's not spending loads of time doing that, whereas if you think back to when Palu was playing IQ, he was not going in for frags whatsoever. He was spending tons of time on the gadget. So it really defines those differences in the way that Team 1 and Team Liquid have been approaching. Team Liquid very slow, very methodical. Team 1 a lot happier to not waste time and get in and be aggressive. They're not being mindlessly aggressive. And I think that's the big difference that sets Team 1's success apart from maybe some of the teams that are below them who don't have quite as much strategy behind their plans.
Bit of an approach now coming through admin. Sexy just getting droned out there. KDS, a player that has been a little bit quieter today than he has in previous play days. Still on the right side of things here and now on that match point. Lagonis trying to get himself involved as well. Liquid aren't going to be looking to give anything up entirely for free here. KDS has now actually made his way on through, but I think Sexy's since dipped back. The next big player to try and deal with is probably going to be Nesk here on that spiral. You're going to want to try and do something about that position. It's as much the position as the player as anything else. We all know what Nesk's capable of, but the location there and the way that you're able to flank off from that position. Oh, a glimpse was gained, but players are going to be able to drop on through. Ness going to get himself stunned out now inside a bathroom. He has shifted and he's had to pivot. And Zedping is going to give the game away briefly, but Neskin doesn't want to aggress too heavily onto that, knowing that he doesn't need to at the moment. Still plenty of time available, and Neskin's now actually been able to gain control of that spiral. Liquid haven't lost anything on this roam and on this lurk. The only thing that they've really lost is burnt a lot of time, and that's hurting Team 1 here, and he can now start to pounce. Palu, he's going to find his first over onto Levy. He does have the hatch open and a C4 in pocket if he does want to try and deny a plant here, which could seriously be on the card. Sexy Cake as well, trying to hold long from the bottom of Spiral. Eskin still having work to do here out on the roam. Could get himself into this engagement, but isn't going to be successful. PSK, he shuts him down. Alamau now trying to be the difference maker, but he gets pinched as well. Plan's likely not going to go down as there are only 6 seconds left. Lagonis is in piano though, and he will try and stick it. 1 versus 3. Only going to be a matter of time until he gets swung, and there it comes. Nesk drops himself down the hatch and finishes the job that his team were doing. It's going to be an overtime.
I'm not really surprised. I was expecting that to really go the way of Team Liquid that round. There was a bit of uncertainty because we didn't really have much to go by in terms of how Team Liquid's press defenses were. Not because they haven't been to press and lobby before, but because last time they did, it all came down to the black eyes and jump outs. So we didn't really get to see a lot from them from that perspective. Now, this could be anyone's game at this point, and Team Liquid are back on the attack, which is a big misfortune for them because they did not look good on their attack. Back in the first half, they only won 2 attacking rounds. 1 onto CEO, 1 onto lobby. Those were rounds 4 and 5. They only had to attack onto Garage once. They lost it. They didn't even get a plant down. Team Liquid looked incredibly slow on their attacks, and while it looked like they had information that was useful to them, there wasn't much being acted upon that information to provide much impact in their rounds. Team 1 had some really good roams on a number of the sites that they visited, and ultimately, Team Liquid's attack just looked subpar. So if they are to win this overtime out, they need to fix that problem right now, because they have got up to 2 attacking rounds to deal with, and that doesn't fare well for them.
No, it really doesn't. I think that it's going to be a little bit of an obstacle to get across. Liquid maybe having a bit more motivation now that they've been able to drag it into an overtime. Things didn't go well for them from the start inside of this one, and they have been given a second chance here. Still coming away with 2 points. Still, there's quite a bit of work to do. Team 1 have opted to go downstairs. It's a site that we saw Liquid ended up burning a lot of time on previously. There's this extended mirror setup inside of the bathroom. We're going to have Neskin playing inside there with the hatch open, ready to drop on out if required. It was somewhere that got opened a little bit as well. There was certainly pressure paid to it in terms of the hard breach, but that was when Ace was being brought. Now Liquid are only bringing the thermite. They're probably going to be a little bit more focused on what they want to try and open up here, and maybe just try and get that garage open, as everything else is going to be a little bit of too much of a nice to have maybe at this point. But still, Liquid moving slowly, going for that top floor clear and going for that thorough map control, which unfortunately is one of the things that's going to be required when we do see that Nomad is banned. You need a little bit more going for you. Now, initially, the push going to start to come through, but Neskin, you can just sit in here pretty much all day long and just drop the hatch when things get rough.
Nade being prepped to try and deal with him. Moringa's still taking the opportunity to be opening up the anti-chamber floor. And as you suspected, Neskin has made his way down onto the bottom floor, so pretty safe. Into the final minute, all 10 players still remaining. Those garage walls have been opened. Now they're going to be looking to drone through. It's very frustrating when you know that all of these defenders are still alive. It makes it so unsafe to try and make your way through those doors. You know, that's why these vertical angles being held by Moringa are going to be so paramount, because especially with a mirror window directly facing from security onto the garage wall itself, How do you walk through that? They can just throw whatever they want out. Sexy Cake goes in for a plant, but he keeps getting damaged. He tried it twice, and eventually he's got to give up. Finally getting a kill onto KDS. It looks like he can go for it, but look how low in health he is at this point. Those Toxic Babe canisters could prove lethal, but I reckon he's going to be able to get it done.
Well, done for what? A flawless round for Liquid. The plant there really just giving PSK the time to find those last couple of kills. A little bit more like the Liquid that we are used to seeing, where that post plant is a successful affair. Liquid have booked the trend. They've picked up a round here on the attack. It's something that they struggled to do during regulation. Now they are well placed to take 2 points out of this game. They too are going to go down to Garage. They currently sit on that overtime match point. Bit of work to do here from Team 1. They've maybe let one slip there that they could have done with getting in the bag. They've still got the attack to deal with. Could be a bit of a tough one.
Well, Team Liquid now on defense, which was the side that they had a better time on. They're also going to be returning to Garage. So just having a look at their track record. When they're around 7 and they went there on round 10, won both of them. Cool, makes sense. This is clearly the better site for them. I trust Team Liquid to choose the better site for them. Yeah, so they've actually gone for an operator composition that more closely resembles what they did in round 10. So round 7 was the one where they went for the 5 C4s, they were going for the insane vertical pressure, the Valkyrie, the Pulse, blah, blah, blah. In round 10, they actually dialed that back somewhat. They didn't bring a Valkyrie whatsoever, nor a Pulse. They're relying pretty much just on the Maestro as far as extra cameras go. Again, they didn't have a Jaeger. They're not going for, ADSs. They can succeed in a roam using other operators as well. So this is a lot more similar to what we saw in round 10, which was a more decisive win, I think, as well for Team Liquid, because back in round 7, Team 1 did attempt a plant. It just wasn't successful.
Let's see how Team 1 want to try and approach this one. Opted for Twitch this time as well, which I think the Twitch is often being used now just when the player wants to play the good old F2. Yeah. I really don't think that it's anything to do with the drone or the utility. We haven't seen anything really that would indicate that being the case.
Just on here, Thermite's being brought with flashes rather than smoke. So at least that is their source of smokes. But for the most part, I would agree with you. Yeah,
it's a good way of worming 3 stuns in by bringing the smokes elsewhere. And it has worked. You know, Lagonis has made use of that utility so far. Still trying to burn through and get to Sexy Cake at the top of those yellow stairs. An engagement is going to ensue there. I'm not sure how that wasn't a headshot for Sexy Cake. Eventually will be taken down as there's some early success here seen by Team 1.
Oh, they are determined to take this to Max 40. They're not going to be letting that go too soon. What's left? A couple of C4s in pocket for Team Liquid. Those haven't been taken off the board yet, so that's still another worry. Especially one for Neskin to contemplate. So I'd imagine his next job is going to be opening up those floors. Yep. Well, okay, he's all the way upstairs at this point, but eventually he's going to have to open up the floors that are directly below him.
Ooh, KDS could come to blows here. He's got a bit of information. Now he knows that there's going to be someone at the top of lower spiral. Alamau is going to be able to shut down Neskin. Shaping up to be a flawless round here for Liquid. Moringa still on that top floor, looking to make a rotation back down. PSK, he's going to try and hold it down on the site. Not a great deal of time remaining, but time enough. PSK still in a position to clutch out in a big way here. Lagonis has the defusement 1 on the top floor. 2 kills coming on in now. Make it 3. This could be it for Liquid. PSK, you might just do the whole darn thing here. Can that diffuser be recovered in time? 4 seconds left. Alamau, he's picked it up through his live information. as to the whereabouts of these two defenders. Can an angle be found? The answer is going to be no. Oh, Liquid. How? Alamar comes off?
Oh, no.
What? Alamar got downed. Thank goodness. Alamar actually got down there. There was an angle available. A little bit of confusion there as to how that actually came through. PSK and Moringa. The 2 versus 5 clutch for the win.
They did a really good job in this game, I will say. I definitely was looking a lot to those two for the successes. Moringa coming away 7